going?
Yep. So a few days ago, we read the article about the 14-year-old boy who ran for governor in the state of Vermont. And there were a few words in that article that were kind of new to us. And we are going to go over the roots of those words, because you're going to see these roots in a lot of your classes when you do reading, and you're doing books, and then you've got this new vocabulary that's coming. And if you could break the words apart, you could kind of get the idea of what those words mean. So there was one of the words that I had a hard time saying, and it was gubernatorial. And do you guys remember what I said gubernatorial meant?
I can't remember.
Can't remember? Well, hopefully after today you will. So gubernatorial is a Latin, has a Latin root, and the Latin root is gubern. What does gubern sound like? Govern, right? And that's exactly what it means. Gubern means to govern. So if you know that gubern means to govern, can you kind of guess what gubernatorial means? Yeah, something to do with government.
Usually means government.
So, yeah, because govern is the Latin root meaning to govern. So the word gubernatorial has to do with govern. And you see, so there's our gubern part of it, and here we have ator, or ator. And that means one who does. So we have gubern means to govern, ator, which means one who does, and then we have isle, which means relating to. So if we stick all three of these together, to govern, one who does, and relating to, what do you think gubernatorial means? It means one who or we could actually do it backwards. Relating to
Governor.
one who, yeah, Michelle. So relating to, what's this ator? One who
To governor.
governs. Yeah. So it's kind of, even though the word goes this way, the meaning kind of goes the opposite way, right? Relating to one who governs. So gubernatorial relates to one who governs. We'll put that right here. Relates to one who governs. So using that, the next word is nomination. What does nomin mean? Let's break this up.
You were chosen.
Nomin and then ation. So look on, you can either look on your paper or look up here and see what nomin means. Or nomen, right, to name. Or name.
Well, you were chosen for something.
And then what does ation mean? That's right, the act of. So what do you think nomination means?
The act of.
The act of
No.
name, right? So the act of naming a what? When you nominate
A
someone,
name.
the act of naming
A person.
a person, yeah. nominating someone for class representative, what are we naming? That's right, the class representative, right? If we're nominating someone to be the school treasurer, what are we doing? Yeah, but what are we doing? If we're nominating someone to be the school treasurer, we're it's the act of naming the treasurer, right? If we are nominating the class president, what are we doing? We're putting in a
Name.
for the
Class.
class president. Alright. So we've got, I wrote this wrong here. The word constitution. Con is the same word that we use in Spanish. When we say con in Spanish, what do we mean? With, right? Or together. The next part of this word is statu. And what does statu mean? To set up. And then what does the I-O-N mean?
On.
Result of. That was a close one, Roman. The O-N does spell on, but when we have the I-O-N, it is the result of. So what was the Constitution? What's the Constitution of the United States? Who wrote that? Do you remember in history how they got that together? What did they do? They put a whole, when you see a picture of people writing the Constitution, it was like a whole room of what? Men. Yeah, men, right? And they kind of sat there and they wrote out our big Constitution. So what were those men doing to create that Constitution? Let's read it backwards. Result of setting up together. The result of setting up together what? What was our Constitution? Rights. Yeah, rights. So it came together as a result of setting up together kind of a Bill of Rights, right? And Latin and Spanish are very similar. So for those of you that know Spanish, what does primo mean? Or prime? First, right? So it's the same in Latin. Prim means first. What does eri mean? Related to. So primary is Latin for first. Good job. And eri is related to. So what was, when we have a primary, what is it? Yeah, it's related to the first cast of voting. So if there's like 5 Democrats voting. It's our first round, and how many are we trying to get at the end of that first round? 1, right? And so then we take that Democrat and we run it against a Republican. So the primary is the first round of votes. And then the last one we have here is amendment. And what does amend mean in Latin? To fix. And ment means the result of. So what does amendment mean? The result of fixing, right? The result of changing. So if we have to do an amendment to the Constitution, what are we doing to the Constitution? Fixing it or changing it. Right, so that's our amendment. So usually we do a law, and then our next step, if that law isn't working, is to amend it, to fix it, and to make it better. So we have gubernatorial, meaning to govern, one who does, relating to. We throw it all together and we get relates to one that governs. Nomination is the act of naming. Constitution is the result of setting up something together. The primary is related to the first of something, and an amendment is the result of fixing or changing. Does anyone have any questions? We're good? All right, so look at your worksheet that's in front of you. The word gubernatorial comes from the Latin root govern, meaning govern. Based on this, what do you think a gubernatorial race is? Roman, do you want to answer that one? What do you think a gubernatorial race is?
Related to governor.
Something that relates to governor. So the race is, who's racing?
The people.
Yeah, and what are they racing for?
Governor.
The job of governor. So what do you think a gubernatorial race is?
Someone who's running for governor.
Yeah, that's right. People that are running for governor. So let's put that down for number 1. All right, number 2, the suffix "shin" or "ation" means the act of. Use this to explain what nomination means in your own words. So look back to see what nomin means.
Well, a person who got chosen.
That's right. And the person who got chosen, what does he or she have to have?
Name.
A name. So what do you think nomination means?
A person who has a name.
Yes. Close. So a person who has a name, but a nomination is the result of being named for what?
Picked.
Yeah? And why would we pick somebody's name? Why would we nominate somebody?
Because they did well or something.
But what are we nominating them for?
Governor.
Yeah, like a governor or a secretary or a president, right? So we're nominating them for what's the word that starts with an E and ends with election? Yeah, right? So it's someone that gets named to run for an election, right?
Yeah.
So the act of naming someone for an election. naming someone for an election or to be elected. And remember, I'm not judging your spelling. You could spell things wrong. So number 3 is asking you to look over what we just did. It's on the board, and it's also right here. And it's asking you to circle the root or prefix that most helped you. Was there one of these roots or prefixes that you were like, oh, that totally helps me with a lot of words have that in it. What's that? The roots? Yeah, because the roots give you what? The definition of it, right? So if you see the word nominator, nomin, and ator, what's a nominator? One who names. So if I'm a nominator and I nominate you, who's the person that named you for the election? Yeah, because who was I? I was the one who named. So ator, anytime we see that in a word, we know it's one who does something. It's kind of cool that these Latin ones are kind of like Spanish too, right? So next time we see the word con or con in a word, we know it means the same as Spanish, right? And same with like primary, when we see that prim or prime. So a prime number is the first number. Right, so we know it's like, oh, that's just like Spanish, so we can make those connections
And
too.
we're writing that here, right?
You just have to circle. So if just circle one of the words up here that really gave you that like, oh, I get it. Or that helped you out with kind of understanding. And now you're going to turn the page. You're going to turn the page to this page. We're going to skip that section up here and we're going to do it later when we work on our own. But I want to get down to this middle part here. So we've read that excerpt about Dean Roy. And here is 3 sentences that summarize that excerpt we read. Dean Roy wants to become governor of the state of Vermont. He has hoped to become the state's governor since he was in 8th grade. Roy is only 14 years old. Dean has already worked as a page at the Vermont State House. Now he's shooting for the governorship. What is the main idea of this excerpt?
He's a young guy trying to run.
That he's a young guy trying to run for governor. So the main idea we could do is Dean is a young guy. How young is he? Did they say his age? So Dean is a 14-year-old running for governor. And that is exactly the main idea. Thank you, Roman. That was great. And in those 3 lines, it says, underline one detail that supports your main idea. If I had to ask you for proof that that's what the main idea was mostly about, can you underline one sentence that shows that that's a true statement?
Yeah.
Michelle, what did you underline?
Governor of the state.
Yeah, but what does the sentence say that you underlined? Yeah, what does it say?
To become governor of the state.
Vermont? Yep, that is perfect. What did you come up with, Evangeline? Same one?
That one, he hoped to become the state governor since he was in 8th grade. So he's been planning it for a while.
Yeah. But what's like, if you only had to underline one detail that would support your claim, what was that? What line did you underline? Same one as Michelle. Roman, what line did you underline to prove?
He was in 8th grade. Roy is only 14 years old.
Yeah. So he's in 8th grade, Roy is only 14 years old. Does that prove our point that Dean is a 14-year-old running for governor?
Yeah.
Does it say that he's running for governor? But that does prove that he's a young guy running for governor. So that is actually a great detail. But if you're gonna just choose one sentence, we wanna do the sentence that says he wants to become governor, right? But that is a great detail about him. That's a great kind of secondary detail about him, right?
Yeah.
But the main detail, the one that would prove our point, like if we were in court and the judge says, give me your evidence that he wants to run for governor, a 14-year-old in 8th grade might not be evidence enough, right? We just have to take it one more step to show that. All right, the next excerpt says, I don't expect necessarily to win, he said. What I do expect is to start the movement and get more young people to come in behind me and say, yeah, we also want to make a change. What is the main idea of this excerpt? So what is
And more
this
young
one?
people behind them.
He wants to start a movement.
Both of those are yes. He wants to get young people behind him for what?
Run.
There you go. He wants to get young people behind him to say, we want to make a change. Because what could, if you just underline he wants to get young people behind him, if someone didn't read the excerpt, would they know what you were talking about?
But I didn't say that. I said something else.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was your, what did you say was your detail?
I said so they can run for governor too, not just behind
Okay.
them.
Yeah. So that's a great one. Why don't, they could run for governor or want to make a change, right? Because we want to make sure that we look at the words that are in the excerpt and stick to what the author is saying. So young people to come behind him and say, we also want to make a change. Michelle, what did you underline? Same thing? Good. So what does Roy want young people to do? To
Run for governor too.
Does it say that in the excerpt? Does it say he wants them to run for governor, or does it say that he wants them to make a,
Changes.
yeah, so we have to stick to we always have to stick to what the words are saying. Cause if the teacher looks at your essay and there's an assumption in there that you can't prove, it's gonna be really hard to explain how you got that, right? You always wanna go back to the text so that we could give, you know how the teachers want you to give like 2 or 3 quotes to support your claim?
Yeah.
That's why they want you to give quotes, because the quote supports the claim that you're making, right? So he just wants young people to make a change. Dean says that he does not expect to win. If he does not expect to win, why do you think he's running?
To make a change.
Yes, to make a change. That's perfect. Excerpt 3, Dean and Ethan were
Wait, where
both
are you?
right here. So look at the one that says excerpt, there you go. So Dean and Ethan were both able to run because of something unusual about Vermont. The state's constitution doesn't set up a minimum age for gubernatorial candidates. Nearly all other states do. In most cases, candidates must be at least 30 years old. What do you think the main idea is of this excerpt?
That in most countries, the person has to be 30 years old to run.
Yeah, so in most states, candidates have to be 30 years old to run for what?
Governor.
Governor. So that's a great detail to support what this excerpt is about, but what's the main idea?
You're both able to.
Yeah. Dean and Ethan are both able to run because why?
We don't have any.
There's no age requirement. And where is there no age requirement? The Constitution doesn't have an age requirement. So the main idea could be Dean is able to run for governor because there's no age requirement. So let's read that again. Dean and Ethan were both able to run.
Sorry, what did we put for the main idea? Because I was trying to put something, but then you said it was wrong.
Oh no, I said that's a great supporting detail, but we just needed to add a little bit more to it.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, so Dean
I
and,
thought you said like that was.
oh no, it was a
That's why I
great,
erased it.
oh no, that's a great supporting detail, it just needed a little bit more. So Dean and Ethan were able to run for governor because something unusual in Vermont. The state's constitution doesn't set a minimum age for gubernatorial candidates. Nearly all other states have a minimum age requirement. In most cases, candidates must be at least 30 years old. So what did we say the main idea was for that one? Who was able, what's the main idea of this entire excerpt? That what? That Dean is able to run for, and how is he able to run for governor?
Because the state constitution doesn't have an age requirement.
That's right. So that's how we're getting that main part from that excerpt. So Dean is able to run for governor because there's no age requirement. All right, so the main idea of excerpt 3 is Dean is able to run for governor. Because Vermont doesn't have an age requirement. square around two details that support the idea that Dean is able to run for Vermont governor. So choose like 2 or 3 words to put a square around, and then choose another 2 to 3 words to put a square around. Just something small that we could go to quickly, especially when we're annotating like notes that teachers give us.
You want me to do what?
Just put a little square
On?
around the words that kind of give us those details that prove that Dean is able to run for governor because Vermont doesn't set an age limit. That one is perfect. Vermont's constitution doesn't set a minimum age for gubernatorial candidates. That's a perfect one. So one detail was Vermont doesn't set a constitutional age. You have your other square around able to run, doesn't set a minimum age. Those are perfect. They're able to run. Why? No minimum age. Those are 2 perfect details. Let me see what you have. Good job. They were able to run because something unusual about Vermont. That is perfect. And what was unusual about Vermont? They don't have age limits. That's great. So you've got
Back here, yeah.
all of you.
Also before you forget, sorry if I'm closing my eyes way too much.
Oh, I didn't think you were. You're good. I never think you were. All right, use your root chart to figure out what the word constitution means, and how does Vermont's constitution make Dean's run possible? So we could write, Dean's run is possible. Here's your sentence starter. Dean's run
Where are we writing that?
is possible.
I believe it's right here.
Dean's run is possible as a what? What was that? Dean's run is possible as a result of setting up and what is a constitution? It's a what? Yeah, but it's a paper that states what? Laws, right? So Dean's run is possible as a result of setting up laws that don't have what? What does it Vermont have in the law? An age limit. So Dean's run is possible as a result of setting up laws without an age limit. And then together, how can we throw together in this. Dean's Run is possible as a result of
Setting up the laws together.
setting up laws together. Good. Without an age limit. What other word on the board would we need to change this law? What would the state have to do? Fixing it, which one of these words means fixing it?
You got it.
Amendment. So what do you think would happen if the state of Vermont made an amendment to
Fix.
the
Excluded.
age limit, then Dean might not be able to run, right? Was it helpful to see like the breakdown and how words get made? Isn't that kind of cool to think about like how a word is made? I wonder. You know what would be really cool to do? To set up a whole bunch of prefixes and suffixes on just like a piece of paper and try to have like a game where we try to make as many words possible. That'd actually be really cool.
Yeah.
And see how a list, we can turn that into a game. You guys, we could be rich. That could be a game that we sell to teachers, where we take a whole bunch of root words and suffixes and prefixes and match up and create a whole list of words, and it would help other students learn vocabulary. And guess who would be super lucky? Kids that know how to speak what kind of language? Spanish, right? Because Spanish comes from Latin.
Wait, this is all Latin?
Some of those words are Latin. Nomen is Latin to name. Govern is Latin to govern. Con is Latin meaning together, like con, cafe con leche, coffee with milk.
But
Prime or prime means first, right? Like we have prima ballerina is the first, the number one ballerina. What's primo in Spanish? Is that what you call your uncle?
that's cousin.
Oh,
And
cousin.
they have a O, I think.
Oh, and that's like your first cousin, right?
Yeah.
And then amend is to fix. So what happens if you tear your shirt and your mom does what? Mends it. It's to fix it. Alright,
That's what you know, we only have like 21 minutes left of class.
okay. We're just gonna talk, we don't have to write. What was the hardest word to understand?
I think Cuban.
Goobern?
Yeah.
Yeah, because goobern has a B instead of a V, right? So there's goobern, and then govern is an O-V-E-R-N. So you wouldn't automatically assume, because they kind of sound different, goobern and govern, right? There's a B, so it wouldn't necessarily draw you to it all right away. Can you see how we get the word name from nomination? Right? Nom and name. Con, think of cafe con leche, right? Together or with. Think of your first cousins, your primos, or a prima ballerina, meaning first. And then amend is pretty easy, right? Because
Yeah,
we know,
amend.
because that's English, amend is to fix something. Although, do people really fix things? Or do people just get new? If you have a hole in your shirt, do you know how to sew a hole in your shirt? I think amend is probably the easiest of them. But the rest we kind of can see where they come from, right? And if you have Spanish, then the con and the prim are easy. What about the suffixes? What are hard suffixes? I know what mine would be. That one would be mine. Stitu, constitution. Because do we have stitu in a lot of words? Constitution, institution. What's an institution? Yeah, a school would be an institution. What else would be an institution?
Job.
They are, well, people go to institutions to work, right? They're kind of big. Like a school would be an institution. Like a state house would be an institution, or a hospital, right?
Yep.
So to set up, but you don't really think of it in that way. But that would be my hardest one. What would be your hardest suffix? Roman.
Ugly.
The airy.
Area.
What are some other words that have airy in them? Primary.
Literary.
Literary. Yes. So what do you think literary means? Related to. What is lit short for?
Like you lit a candle is one.
So literary. Or what's litter?
Not throwing away your trash.
Kind of. Think of when you're in a class, like an English class, and sometimes the teacher will call something literature. Literature. Take out your literature book. It's a book, right? It's something that has writing on it. So literary is what, do you think? If this is to do with writing, or if this is like writing or a work of words, what do you think literary means?
Related to the subject.
Book.
Yeah, related to books. Good job, Roman. There used to be schools called secretarial schools. What does IAL mean? Relating to? Yeah, relating to secretaries. So a secretarial school would be relating to secretaries. Alright. Good?
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, do you have any questions?
Wait, were we supposed to write that?
Nope. You're good. That was the part that I said we were just gonna talk about.
Honestly.
Alright,
Well, I think it makes more sense now. It means like a book.
yeah.